Washington and Hamilton.
Oh,
He sang
that's
happy
cool.
birthday to her.
Oh, that's cool.
That is so cool.
It's a good one.
It's cool.
I'll do it for $5.
She would love for you to sing
I know
happy
she would.
birthday to her on the
Who wouldn't,
loudspeaker.
Oh,
I've
yeah,
done
there
it
you go.
before.
I actually think that like the whole school, like you should have an assembly,
assembly?
just to
Oh yeah,
sing
she would love that.
Lily happy birthday. And invite me in as like the special guest.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that would be the icing on the
We'd
cake.
love that.
I could dress
From
as
your
like
mommy.
the mascot, you know. You could
And then
like,
take
And
the-
surprise her.
yeah, I think that would like make her 5th grade year the most
Oh,
memorable year.
it would make it all right.
Yeah, the therapy bills.
I was
would
gonna say you guys might
probably
need
be-
to find her eligible for some services.
Mom.
At least I know what we were. Yesterday we were driving down the road and Joe was walking out in front of me and I rolled down.
Call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Education of Prospect Heights District 23 on January 11th, 2023 at 7:01 p.m. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Bednar,
Present.
Mr. Gradanis,
Present.
Mrs. McClaney,
Present.
Mr. Nordmark, Mr. Novak, Mrs. Peters, Mrs. Butwinski.
Present. Okay, can we stand for the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So this is recognition of visitors and participation at each regular and special open meeting. Members of the public and district employees may comment on or ask questions of the Board of Education. If you would like to address the board, please complete the form and give it to Mrs. O'Donnell, our recording secretary. Would anyone like to address the board? Okay, we can move on to communications.
A handful of communication items for tonight. Just as a reminder, we are members of the EdRed organization. It's a legislative advocacy group where we learn about active legislation and have an opportunity to have dialogue around that. There is an annual legislative dinner. The slate of honorees and speakers is still kind of in flux, but we typically have a handful of folks from Illinois legislation there. That is January the 23rd. If you would like to attend, please let Michelle know. We can get everybody signed up. Also a save
Where
the
is
date. It is at.
I'm sorry, I saw
No,
it.
that's okay.
I forgot.
Yeah, I don't recall where it is either. I'm confusing it in my head
It's
with,
at the Hilton Chicago Northbrook.
okay, in Northbrook.
Okay.
That's the legislative dinner.
Yeah. I'm confusing it with the next one, which is the North Cook Division meeting,
That's it.
which is here in Wheeling on March the 15th at District 21's headquarters, where they'll be talking about community services, services through schools as they launch their new building. That evening event is March the 15th, and again, if you're interested, please let Michelle know. She will RSVP for our group. There'll be a couple of important surveys coming out over the next few months. We will be wrapping up the Equity and Excellence Needs Assessment. All of our 4th through 8th grade students were offered an opportunity. We have 500 or so students voices in the room, which is awesome. We've shared it among staff, and that number of responses is growing as well. And our parent community, we've heard from 25 respondents. So we really would like to push advocacy for folks to take that. So that'll be a specific kind of highlighted component of the school scene this Friday. Please click this quick link.
How has
Um,
that been shared out so far?
It's been shared out through district and building newsletters. We recognize that we did it, you know, sort of in that late November, early December holiday whirlwind time, so that may not have been ideal for everybody, but we extended that open through the 20th. So this Friday gives us an opportunity to send that out again and gives families time all of next week. It's a very short survey. It should not take more than a couple of minutes, but it's an important one for people to share their perspective about inclusion, feeling safe, welcome, and engaged in our school community. Following on that, we will have the 5 Essentials, which is this required statewide survey. Again, this is an area where we've had really high student and staff participation. We would love to double, if not triple, our parent participation as we've had in the past. The goal has historically been about 25% respondents. We tend to get somewhere between 10 and 12%. So we'd really love to see that in the 20s or 30s even. So we'll be doing some special things during parent-teacher conferences.
When does the 5 Essentials get released?
5 Essentials will be released at the end of January.
Okay.
It goes through February and March.
I was gonna say, could we have like iPads set up at parent-teacher conferences, like in the hallway, like, I don't know,
Yeah.
or like QR codes,
That's
like.
exactly right. We've talked about
That's-
using that as an opportunity to really engage folks while they're waiting, and just, you know, feel free, you know, take this survey while you're here, as well as some other strategies that we've been investigating to really try to get that voice heard. That participation in those feedback loops are really important.
I also wonder if like at an EDP pickup, like a QR
Mhm.
code there, like,
Yeah.
hey, do that, like, you have a captive audience as
Yeah.
people are walking in and out the door, like,
Yeah.
as
And when our children refuse to leave.
correct, and you're standing there like,
They're like, can I stay 15 more minutes? They're like, sure, I'll do the 5 Essentials
Yeah.
survey.
There you go.
yeah,
We also will then in the month, so that'll be in the month of February, and in the month of March we have our strategic plan strategic plan survey that will be again an important feedback loop for us. So looking forward to getting that input. We were talking as we prepared for the calendar year of 2023 that it's in some ways a special year for District 23, reflected on my own golden birthday when I was 8 years old on September 8th. It's like it's a special day, a special year to celebrate your birthday. So for District 23, we thought the year of 2023 is a special year for us to celebrate. We do have a number of things concluding: our equity survey, our strategic plan, our safety and security audit, the strategic plan development for the next year, our conversations around building a better D23. So there are a lot of important things going on, a lot of things to celebrate. So we worked on a campaign that we will use throughout this calendar year to highlight all the reasons we're proud to be D23 in 2023. And as shared in the board packet, and as will be shared out this Friday in the school scene and on our social media, we have a special, very famous number 23, wishing District 23 all the best in the year of 2023. So we look forward to sharing that information, and stay tuned. Click that link, and you'll get a chance to see and hear a special private message just for District 23.
Hey, for the equity survey, there is a PTO meeting tomorrow night.
Yes.
Do we have a QR code that we could just like print out and put and just
Have it at the
kind of
PTO
just to be
meeting.
able to kind because I'll be there.
Yeah,
Like, I can just hand that out to them.
Actually, yeah, Amy's presenting at the PTO meeting
Okay.
and is facilitating a
equity thing
equity
afterwards.
focus group for parents
Okay.
But if you wanna
right
run that,
afterward, but we can certainly
give you the link
include
too.
that
Okay.
link for people who haven't taken the survey yet there.
to say, because if it's even
Yeah.
something that could be shared on that Facebook page, like with the,
Oh, sure.
like
Yeah.
just lots of
Oh,
ways
yeah,
to
I'm
get
sure
it.
that Jackie can share it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just wondering if that's, because honestly, I have not seen the equity
Yeah.
survey. So,
Yeah.
like to your point, it's been lost in some stuff.
Yeah,
and-
it's just timing, but we've got a couple of parent focus groups, 3 actually, in the month of January. We're doing an administrative focus group. We have focus groups with students from Sullivan and MacArthur, and we have 3 other staff focus groups as well. So we're, in addition to the broader survey, we're pulling together representatives to share in a dialogue. So, and that next one actually is tomorrow night. So, okay, those are our communication items.
Okay, so we can move on to committee reports. And first is buildings and sites. We just really have an update. We didn't meet, there wasn't really anything to meet on, but let's see, the notes were that for the Eisenhower whiteboard and projector replacements, we had an inspection of the walls to make sure that there's no asbestos or anything like that. And they reviewed the electrical work that's needed and determined how that's going to ultimately work. The Pathosands the new equipment for the Pathosands it's here, right? It's okay. I'm a little behind here. There was an update on the Carousel Park assessment, and that is that complete, or is that
No,
still
not
ongoing?
yet.
It's still ongoing. Okay. And the kind of ongoing saga over at Sullivan related to the plumbing, which it's all complete now.
It's all done.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's been repaired and everything is back replaced. The carpeting is replaced. So
You know, I get detailed reports from my 5th grader about
Yeah.
things that might be wrong in the
Right.
building, and there was no mention at all
No mention
of that.
of
So,
the
right, you know,
urban
so-
chic.
Right. Yeah.
One day of concrete,
Mm-hmm.
and then the carpet tiles were laid back over.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then, do we think like that like kind of the final phase of this? Are we thinking that we would do that spring break or summer?
I'm hoping we can last to the summer, so we
Okay.
can knock it out over the summer. They're gonna do
Okay.
some camera work that we'll talk about at the next buildings and sites meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
so that's buildings and sites. Next is finance.
Yeah, we met last week. We talked about the budget resolution. Will come tonight. That insurance renewals. I think just the big thing, right? And I think I just see this all the time at work, right? There's huge increases in cybersecurity insurance, right? Everything else seemed like it was kind of aligned with our expectations. I think like they said, buildings and sites. We talked about kind of the Carousel Park appraisal, and I get just that's land that we own now and lease to Arlington Heights Park District, and want to see if there's potentially other options for what to do with that. So we're getting an appraisal of it. It sounds like Arlington Heights Park District is getting their
That's
own
right.
appraisal with it, and then we'll kind of meet to discuss
We'll meet
potential
later this
future
spring.
plans down the road. And I think just the only other item that we talked about kind of at the end, and this is related to the bills too, is that we're getting a Google Workspace assessment done as well to kind of, and again, it just ties back to cybersecurity insurance and cybersecurity risks, and that that there's so many different phases to areas to this, and one of them is making sure that your environment is configured as securely as it can be, right? And then this is an assessment that's getting done to kind of give us guidance about the security configuration settings that we have in the Google Workspace environment. And we expect to get that report back and make sure that everything's looking good.
Awesome.
I think that was. Did I miss anything for finance?
The only thing which we'll talk about later was the student fee recommendation.
Oh, yes.
And that's just an information item though this evening.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Next is community relations.
Are you just giving an SSU?
I am not. Sorry.
That's okay.
Next is NSSEO.
Next is NSSEO. I was not able to go to the meeting last night, but Mary Lynn Peters went in my place, and she gave me a few notes about what went on. The NSSEO STARS was 6 high school students from districts 214, 211, and Barrington 220 at Kirk in the transition program, and how each of them uses different interventions to become employable, for employable skills. And then Brian Weems, who is principal at Kirk, did a presentation on the continuous improvement plan related to transition issues. There was a discussion regarding changing the date of the June board meeting, which I guess went kind of crazy.
It was a little
And
confusing.
is tabled, so we need to find out about that. There was a first read on a number of policies. There was a request for added staff and time at Timber Ridge and the Deaf and Hard of Hearing program, which was approved. They costed out for what the added hours and personnel would be, and what the revenue would be to apply to that. And it's typically the tuition for those students. Let's see. There was an update from the NSSEO Facilities Committee, and a discussion following regarding the use of unreserved fund balance. At the end of the year, NSSEO figures out, they apply whatever money to the budgeted items, and then there's funds left over that they return to the districts. And there was a discussion about retaining those funds to address issues like windows that need to be replaced and things like that. But it was a discussion. I don't think there was any resolution. Okay.
Does the governing board vote on that then to make the
Does.
approval? That's it.
Yes. So, that would be a topic that we would want to discuss amongst
Sure,
ourselves and
yeah.
all the other boards, and decide if that's something we want to go forward with.
Did they have ballpark numbers of what they were thinking of asking for, or did it?
They're gonna
There's
prepare
a-
They're gonna
that.
prepare it.
They
Okay.
didn't have it last night.
Okay. Thank you.
There's a finance committee that
Right.
Chris and Amy sit on, along with all the other feeder districts, and then that helps to generate the actual budget proposal that the board will look at.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and the only other thing, the current governing board is setting up a date to interview candidates for the superintendent position. So, and did I miss anything? That's pretty much it.
How many of those candidates will you actually meet with?
6.
Okay.
So I don't have the names yet. So that's NSSU. Next is community relations.
That's me.
So,
So we met, I don't even know when, sometime in the last month.
Yeah.
It
It's
feels like it
long
was
month.
yesterday.
It's like
like-
days.
No, it was like December 21st. Right?
21st, yeah, it was the last week
Yeah.
of school.
Or like the
Okay,
19th or
well,
something.
it
Seems like
happened.
so
Yeah,
long
it would
ago.
happen.
It feels like so long ago. Like I've had a
It
whole
was
life
such a
since
positive
then.
experience, it's etched in your memory.
It was amazing.
It was, because
We talked about a lot of really good stuff. Actually, we talked about the website and about some things we've got going on to update the website and make some changes, make it more user friendly from a mobile device. And really just what do we want to see on the website and kind of making it more functional for families and community and stuff. It was actually a great conversation about that stuff. We talked a lot about the D23 and 2023 and how cool that is, and spurred quite a few ideas to keep that going all year, and just some really cool stuff with that. Institute Day just happened on Monday. There was some great pictures on the Twitterverse of things going on there at the Institute Day. If you haven't gotten a chance to see, there was, we did some cross collaboration with other feeders so that our art teachers could actually do professional development with other art teachers, and worked with other districts and really got a chance to build that. And it's cool to see like other districts posting about it on Twitter and like how exciting it is. So that was cool. Parent coffee is coming up, as always. Those are coming. Math and science nights for Eisenhower will be coming for kindergarten and first grade. In the spring, there will be we're partnering with River Trails 26 to show Screenwise. Is that right?
I think is it Devorah Heitner?
Yes, Devorah Heitner.
Is a speaker. Yeah.
A speaker from Screen Asia
Right,
or
from
whatever.
whatever that organization is.
Yeah, about that.
On that same topic.
Yeah, so we'll be partnering with River Trails to offer that to our community.
The topic.
It's like
Screen time.
Social media,
Okay.
impact of
I missed it.
technology on kids'
Yeah.
mental wellness and strategies for kids and parents and educators.
It looks like a good one. Teacher appreciation will be coming soon as we roll into the spring and get ready to love our teachers. So that is on the horizon. As we shared, spring parent-teacher conferences will be upcoming. That we will hold that in person again on 2 separate nights. And then the March newsletter is coming out. So we just kind of talked through all of that stuff. Lots of good stuff happening in our community and ways to engage our families.
Good. Okay. And IASB. So this is, we kind of missed the chance last month. It's a chance just to comment on the III conference and any thoughts or interesting things that you picked up.
I was
You wanna
bummed to
start?
miss it, so
No,
yeah,
that's right.
I was bummed to miss it. So I
You
didn't
wanna,
get to.
you wanna go?
I wasn't there
Yeah,
either.
he was bummed.
It was me.
It was me and you. It was me.
Yeah,
Sorry.
the two of you.
I thought it was pretty good. I mean, you know, I thought it was the best keynote speakers that I've seen in 12 years. All three of them. They really, I thought they all hit their point, and it was pretty good.
Yeah, sometimes the keynote speakers are kind of.
Yeah, I enjoyed all three of them. It was like they, you know, you could walk away from each one of them with something. There was a couple sessions that I went to that were really interesting. One of them was giving. It was about a high school district, but there was even elementary school districts that were talking about doing it. Was giving students a spot on the board, not as a voting member, but as a informational
cool.
member, and to be able to hear their voice, and board members would ask them for their opinions. And the district that presented really, it was an amazing group of kids. I mean, they were dead on, and they identified some pretty serious high level issues. I mean, and I'm sure it's different at a high school than it would be elementary, but it was just a very interesting concept, and it's something that I had the one person basically try to get a hold of me later on to see what other people were doing in the elementary school district. So I thought it was, I mean, it's very much so like our ambassador stuff, but you know, it would be interesting to, you know, the students could stay, and the board respects their time, so they either speak early or they can stay for the whole meeting. But it was really, they brought up some really good topics that the board basically said, if you give somebody that spot, then you have to be able to be willing to listen to them too.
Yeah.
Right? And you can't just, it's not just,
You kind of coach them about not what to say, but things for them to think about that
Yeah.
would be pertinent to the board.
So there were several really good sessions that I went to. That was one of them that stuck out.
Yeah, I went to a couple roundtables, and one of the things I like the best about the conference is interacting with board members from other places, not just, you know, districts around here, but districts all around the state. You learn a lot about issues that would never occur to us, you know, I mean, you know, we have, I think I've told you guys before, you know, people, talking about the bus times, oh, they're so long, it's 30 minutes, you know, and in some of these communities, the kids are on the bus for, you know, 2 hours, you know, they're like going 2 counties over. But just thinking about those things, just, I don't know, I think it just broadens your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there was a lot of talk about what the pandemic, how that affected everybody and districts and what they were doing and, you know, are kids behind or not? But I think, and I don't know, I'm not trying to be a cheerleader or anything, but I think it's made me appreciate our board and this group and just, you know, the way we work together, and, you know, we're pretty open and we argue and we figure things out, and you know, we do it, you know, it's just common practice for us, and it doesn't always seem to be the case. So it just makes me appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that there was a really good presentation from our board president.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At a round table.
Mm-hmm.
You did.
How did that go?
It went well. It was
It
great.
went well. It was, you know, it's the carousel of tables, and there's tables of like 8 or 10,
Mm-hmm.
and they were
That's
full.
great.
Yeah.
For each session.
Mm-hmm.
It was good.
Did you enjoy doing that?
Yeah,
Well, it's. I mean, we had a positive story to talk about, and it is helpful, I think, or it feels good to be helpful in that way, to share our experiences. Not that what we were presenting was, you know, the
Groundbreaking,
newest
right?
groundbreaking thing, but for us to be able to share that out with others and seeing them, well, that's a great idea, we're going to try XYZ, that feels good about spreading sort of the knowledge base.
Well,
And
puts our little town on the map.
giving giving to the professional community, and not always just receiving that. I thought so.
and there, I think there were good exchanges. You know, people have ideas or expand on the ideas that we presented and
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. I thought it was good.
What were some of the things that were in your presentation that you felt like that people reacted to the most? Was there any?
Clear the cobwebs.
Oh, see, yeah,
This
is
was
a
like
while
2 months ago.
That was November.
ago. Yeah.
I think
It was
the-
last year.
The biggest takeaway that, and this, our board and our community has seen it over and over again, is presence is the present. And we talked about how it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be a fancy gift, it doesn't have to be an expensive thing. If we're giving of our time and we're there, so when we did pie in the teacher's lounge, they were just Costco pies. But the fact that we had board representatives there, administrative representatives there, scooping the pie, getting a cup of coffee, just to say thank you, is a different feel than a memo that says, there's pie in the lounge, we appreciate you, thanks. So the presence being the present is the thing that people, oh, I really like that. Because I think oftentimes we overthink, or we tend to think that it has to be so much more than it is, and we were talking about things like our drive-by parade, or when we did the
Elf.
Elf Express. Wasn't crazy difficult to do, and it wasn't expensive, and it was, but it was well received. You know, we partnered with Dairy Queen earlier that year to just take buses and drop off ice cream and say thank you for all the work you're doing. So I think hearing that from us, a lot of people were like, "Oh, those are doable things," and it's really about being present in the community more so than planning some extravagant thing that people can get or go to.
I think some of the folks were surprised, you know, because I think that's,
Right.
I think sometimes people tend to think, oh, it's gotta be some whiz bang thing, you know, that we've gotta wow everybody. But I think especially these last couple of years, you just need a touch point, you know,
Mhm.
that's all people want is, you know, just,
Yeah.
you know, somebody to reach out,
Interaction.
somebody to say hi or thank you
Right.
or whatever, but it doesn't have to be a big thing.
I mean,
like you
the
say.
PTO Kona Ice celebration at the end of last school year that we sort of worked with them on, but that was a great idea that they brought, and it was just an ice cream, I mean, a Kona ice truck. And they had, you know, what I would have called a boom box, but music playing, and that was it, and it was crazy packed.
It was
And
so
everybody had a nice time, and it was good just to see each other and to celebrate together. You know, very little cost impact, really easy to arrange and well received.
Yeah. So.
Good job on presenting.
Good stuff,
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
great.
That's awesome.
So next year, we'll all,
Yeah,
I'll be there.
all
Next year,
7 of us will be
keynote.
yeah.
That's never-
Why you don't wanna be board president?
Right.
Wow, Carol,
Yeah.
you went big.
Watch out.
I said you're going keynote all the way.
No, I'm not, no, I'm not.
4 more years.
Okay, we can move on to
Consent
the
agenda.
consent agenda.
So tonight's consent agenda includes the approval of the minutes from our regular meeting and executive session on December the 14th, our January personnel report, and the second reading and adoption of our press policy, volume 110, which is a follow-up to the first read we had last month.
So, can I get a motion?
Most of you approve the consent agenda.
Second it.
Moved by Brian, seconded by Jim. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bednar,
Yes.
Mr. Godanis,
Yes.
Mrs. McClaney,
Yes.
Mrs. Boutwinski.
Yes. Motion passed 4-0.
That's weird.
So weird. Alright. Alright, next is the financial report. Brian, did you have?
Yeah, I had the bills this month. I think everything was good. So I have a motion to
Okay.
approve the financial report. Is that enough?
As presented.
As presented.
Yes.
I'll second.
Moved by Brian, seconded by Becky. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bednar,
Yes.
Mr. Godanis.
Yes.
Mrs. McClaney.
Yes.
Mrs. Boutwinski.
Yes. Motion passed 4-0. Okay. And next is the superintendent's report.
So our first item on the agenda tonight is an action item. It is a resolution regarding our discussion that we've been having over the last year about our needed enhancements to the facilities, to our programming at Eisenhower, and safety, security, and other enhancements to facilities at all of the buildings. Jeff is with us from Archon, our partners, representing our team, and before there's other conversation, I just want to say a couple of thank yous to all of our team that supported the research that has gone in over the last year plus. It has been an endeavor that we went into purposefully and intentionally to look at in a very thorough way, in a very thoughtful way. And we could not have done that without the guidance and support from our partners. So thank you, Jeff, on behalf of everyone. Also would like to thank all of the students, staff, parents, community members who have participated in our discussions and research and development of plans and refinements of the plans dating back to, again, last fall. We had had a number of focus group conversations and citizens task force committee meetings and surveys and informational nights. And again, our responsibility as administration is to analyze and assess the need in the educational programming and in our services and facilities. We did that again in consort with our community stakeholders. And so now the recommendation at the last meeting when we heard the full data and report from the survey and from the Citizens Task Force, informed the board. There's some discussion at the last meeting as well, but now it's the board's opportunity to discuss that.
Okay, so this is where,
Yeah, so we adjust this.
okay. So the board will next consider the adoption of a resolution providing for and requiring the submission of the proposition of increasing the district's limiting rate to the voters of the district at the consolidated election to be held on April 4th, 2023, for the purpose of installing security equipment and replacing windows, sidings, and doors at MacArthur Middle School and Sullivan Elementary School, Betsy Ross Elementary School, and Eisenhower Elementary School, expanding and renovating Eisenhower Elementary School for full-day kindergarten and for other school purposes. So, I think
Mrs.
now,
McClaney will now read.
yes.
Resolution providing for and requiring the submission of the proposition of increasing the limiting rate for school district number 23, Cook County, Illinois, to the voters of said school district at the consolidated election to be held on the 4th day of April 2023.
Okay, so can I get a motion? Someone
I
make a motion?
move to adopt the resolution as read by title.
Okay. And who will second?
I'll second it.
Moved by Mrs. McClaney, seconded by Mr. Bednar.
No conversation.
So now, if there are any statements that you would like to make before we take a vote?
Sure, I'll make a statement.
Okay.
I think Dawn summarized it pretty well. I mean, we, at the beginning of the year, identified some needs that we had in the district, and I think the resolution represents those needs. And I think one of the big parts is expanding Eisenhower for full-day kindergarten and early childhood. And we talked about that. I think we followed our plan. We said we were gonna investigate it. We got consultants together, and I think as a board member, I feel very comfortable putting it to the community for them to decide if that need meets what they're looking for. I mean, the community is the one that has to pay for it. I mean, we're part of the community, but, you know, we're just 7 people out of the community. So I think it's the right thing to do, put it up for a vote, and, you know, we'll see how the community goes forward. But I agree with the process that we went through and everything that we did to investigate it.
Jim, that was very well said, and I agree. I think we've done a really nice job of hearing what everybody has to say, and I think now, like, let's hear what everybody has
Yeah.
to say, right? Like, we've heard, we've heard it from a group, and now let's hear. So.
Brian, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think just the only thing that I would add is that I think that we have to be really clear-eyed about kind of what comes next, right? Because I think we're asking a lot, and I think that, I think that we've, that what we're asking for is a need, right? And there's kind of short-term tactical things and long-term strategic needs that are in here, but I think that but I think that this is a lot to ask of the community, right? Financially, I think that it's. One of the things I think is really important as we move forward, right, is some of the analysis that you've done to kind of show where we move, right, in terms of the different districts that feed into 214, that, that apart from 59, that we're kind of the lowest right now in terms of tax. You know, and we actually have the lowest tax rate of all the districts that feed, apart from 59. But but we also have the highest residential rate, right? So you know, I think that we're doing a lot with the funding that we have now, and that, you know, we're going to move up, right? You know, that we'll probably be the third highest, you know, if this passes. But I think that's, to me, that we have to be, that this is going to be a challenge to pass, right? And that we have to be right. You know, I think that, you know, if it passes, we have to be prepared as a board and administration, you know, to really provide oversight, right, over the next couple of years to make sure that this money is being spent well, right? Because I think that there's a construction component to it and an operations component to it, and that we have to make sure that the construction gets done on time and in budget, and that the operation money, you know, it is being spent wisely after that. And I think the other part is, if it fails, right, that we have to be ready to, you know, you know, how do we then solve the overcrowding at Eisenhower, right? And just tactically, I think we have to be ready to we have to be ready either way, and it's going to be a lot of work either way, right, over the next couple of years.
Yeah, and for now, we're putting the question out, so. You can see that we are missing 3 members tonight, and that is due to work and travel obligations. And though they are not present, I've asked them each to provide a statement that I could read, just so we know their position, even though they can't vote because they are not here. So, let me read. This is Kevin Novak, said, "This referendum will not only help enhance the longevity and safety of all district properties, but will make possible our ability to provide more comprehensive pre- and kindergarten education to our entire constituency. This will serve not only our district neighbors who have elementary-aged children, but in keeping our district competitive with other high-quality educational districts. All homeowners benefit from sustained property values." That was Kevin Novak. This is from Mary Lynn Peters. She apologizes for not being able to be present. "I want to thank the Citizens Task Force for working so hard to study the district and deciding if it would be worthwhile to make this ask of the voters for the purpose of installing security equipment and replacing windows, siding, and doors across the district, and expanding and renovating Eisenhower for full-day kindergarten and for other school purposes. I support the recommendations of the task force and would have voted in the positive if I had been present this evening." And then Bryn Nordmark says, "Based upon the Citizens Task Force recommendation to move forward with the District 23 referendum, after careful consideration and extensive time, reviewing and educating myself on all the facets of the proposed referendum strategy, I am in support of placing this on the April ballot in its entirety. This includes a strategy of one question on the ballot, assuming this is still the recommendation, which it is." Okay. So, I guess we are ready to vote. So roll call, please.
Unless you have a statement.
Yes, I can make a statement. Let me make it.
I mean, you don't have to.
I did write a statement. The board and administration has worked hard to identify and describe the needs in our district. We have had numerous informational sessions for the community. We have conducted surveys to refine those needs and priorities. Our architects and contractors have discussed with the board a number of times. Our business personnel have crunched the numbers and come up with a plan that will meet the needs identified whilst demonstrating fiscal responsibility. And all that has brought us to this point. So now, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Bednar,
Yes.
Mr. Grodanis,
Yes.
Mrs. McClaney,
Yes.
Mrs. Bowenski.
Yes. Motion passed 4-0. Quite good stuff.
As a follow-up to that, we will schedule a meeting with our consultants again and provide the next step timelines. We'll file all the necessary paperwork, and then there will be a follow-up communication for board and staff regarding the legal requirements, do's and
I was gonna ask
don'ts,
about that, yeah.
so that we are being respectful throughout the process of, as an educational institution, sharing just the information about this referendum ask. Certainly want to continue our transparency on the website, and we'll make those enhancements to the website so that there are some of the frequently asked questions. Again, sharing that information, looking at putting a tax calculator there so that people can identify more specifically what a tax impact might be for their home. Then again, respecting that so that our community sees the information through the school district, but not an advocacy one way or
One way or
another.
another, yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thank you all.
That's great, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
We'll help you in any way we can.
Okay. Looking forward to it.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
So the next agenda item is an information item. It's our annual enrollment projection. This is the process that really begins the planning for the next school year. Here we are in January, planning for August. And actually, this was originally dated for December. I just forgot to put it in the packet. You know, one of the big takeaways that we've seen in the reports, as well as have in the conversation I've had with all of the other superintendents, is the COVID impact in terms of what, you know, folks are deeming as the lost kids. When we have kids in our systems, we are able to kind of identify, track, see, even when they move from one district to another in Illinois, they are still entered into the same state system. So we're able to identify where kids are and where they're moving. And over the couple of years of COVID, we not only saw students unenroll and be homeschooled, but we saw a lot of unenrolling, moving to other areas, moving to other states, so a lot more movement than we've ever seen in the past. Pair that with some of the live birth data that we have in our local community, that is what generates sort of the base number. They actually count the babies that are born that are in our community and project the years that they'll be entering the school system, and that's sort of what gives us a baseline. And then we use historical numbers to project move-ins, move-outs, the property sales, those types of things, impacting if it's a booming market and a lot of people are selling and young families are moving in, we're likely to see numbers go up. When it's a static market, then we don't see as many new families moving in. And so the big takeaway right now is relatively flat enrollment. We came in this year at 102% of what we had projected last year. We're usually within 1 or 2 percentage points. The projected overall number for 23-24 school year is a negative 3%, a 3% decline in overall enrollment. Again, that's based on live birth and cohort survival rates. Within the grade levels, we will continue to see the blips up and down as larger classes. I can see that first grade into second grade is a 10% increase, but then second grade to third grade is an 8% decrease. And so cohorts of kids, as they move through the system, may make a larger, have a larger group in one grade level than another, but the overall is a negative 3 projection. So the reason that this data is important is because it starts our process of planning for enrollment or for staffing based on enrollment. We start calculating class sizes. we start identifying the number of sections that we'll need, and then that informs our decision in terms of planning for the staff that we will need to hire or maintain for next year. So in subsequent meetings, I'll be bringing those recommendations forward. We actually had a meeting earlier today with the administrative team around that staffing conversation, and so we'll be bringing that in the near future. Any other questions or thoughts about the enrollment?
The flux that is apparently due to COVID, that you homeschooling or moving away, is this, first of all, this is everywhere?
Yes.
They're seeing it. Is this something that it is projected to be a temporary situation, or
Well,
a permanent situation?
I don't know that. I don't have a yeah.
Well, I'm not
No,
saying
no,
you
I-
know. Is this something that
Right. I
is being
I think
researched or?
right, it is being researched. The impact for us is that typically we look at a 3-year average to generate that number. We say, okay, well, what has it been the last couple of years, and that's likely what it'll be next year.
Yeah.
In the models, you can stretch that to look at it for a 3-year window, a 5-year, a 10-year. So obviously, the longer back we look, if we did a 10-year projection,
Accurate.
it flattens us out quite a bit. But when you only look at the 3, it's really volatile because of the COVID. That was my point in saying the
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah.
How it settles itself, and whether families are moving back, we don't know. We have also seen, again, due to the war in Ukraine, a significant number of new immigrant families, new students moving to our district, again, from other states. So that's a different, we certainly have a higher new student enrollment throughout the year. This is one of our highest years of new kids moving into the district.
And it's hard to project that.
Right.
Yeah, you can't.
So whether that
Yeah.
maintains, but again, for us, overall, the fact that we maintain relative flat total numbers, gives us what we need in terms of short-term
Right,
projection.
yeah.
We used to be able to say with a little bit more certainty, oh, here's what it's gonna look like 3, 4, 5 years down the line. I think at best we can say we have we were at 102% of what was projected last year. I think we know we'll be pretty close. The following year, probably have a good idea of what 24, 25 will look like. But
Yeah,
beyond that,
yeah.
it's hard to say, especially because of the real estate market. I think that's, for this community, as we talked about before, we're so residentially focused, that those fluctuations of when people are selling their houses and new families are moving in, our numbers are gonna go up. And when everyone is like, I'm not sure I wanna put my house on the market just yet, then it's a little bit slower in terms of new enrollees. So that's probably the bigger factor for us than are the live birth rates. That we can't really control. You know, not gonna have any input in that. But when the market, I'm not. I promise.
Oh, gosh.
I promise. I will stay out of that.
Move on, please.
But in our community, we can monitor more closely what's happening with real estate sales. So that's something that Amy works on quite a bit and has conversations with local realtors, etc.
I was gonna say.
New topic at Triple I.
Yeah. Right. Encouraging population growth. Exactly.
So the kindergarten and first grade are based on all of that information, right?
Yes.
The live births,
Yeah.
the real estate market, what we typically see a raise from our kindergarten class to our first, because it's crazy. Like sometimes it's 20 and sometimes it's
Yeah.
2. Like
Yeah.
it's a really hard number to kind of pin down.
The
like,
kindergarten numbers are primarily based on live birth,
okay.
because then there's a multiplier that's applied based on historical movement.
Okay.
So
And we were just kind of commenting, our 8th grade class right now is ginormous.
Yes.
Right, that's a real word, just
Yeah,
so you
that's
all
a
know.
technical term.
It's
Absolutely.
technical
Absolutely.
explanation of the 8th grade. And then you watch, like, it gets little to that 5th grade. Our current 5th graders are like one of the smallest classes, and then we kind of boom back up.
Yeah.
Like, it's just interesting to see where the,
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. It seems like there's always one or two classes
Bubble
Right.
that's just
Right.
Yeah.
gigantic, and then it's like, all right, let's scramble to put the teachers there. Now,
Ginormous
let's put them
is
over
the
there.
word.
Let's put them over here.
ginormous.
But there really aren't any. So I think like last year's graduating class and then this year's graduating class are both bigger,
Right, 180,
than
183.
than any of the classes that
That are
are
coming.
kind of coming. So
Yeah.
we are gonna. I mean, I think that we do. You know, I know that we're talking about what's coming in, but I think that we are going to have generally smaller class sizes next year than we have had the last few years.
Unless we reduce numbers of sections.
Then.
Or I'm sorry, overall class.
Yeah,
Right,
overall
I'm sorry,
classes,
yeah,
Right,
yes.
number
Yeah.
of students in a class,
Yeah.
right,
Mm-hmm.
class size.
Mm-hmm.
Grade levels.
Grade level.
Yep.
Ginormous.
I mean,
Yeah.
the second grade isn't small.
No.
I mean,
We use the term bubble, you know,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
the other
Exactly.
term, but that is what it is. You'll see those pockets of,
always
you know.
flowing through.
Mhm.
It's really just like that 5th grade class right now is small compared to all the rest. Like, looking at it, just interesting.
Yeah, it's the only other one below 140.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Brian and I are contributing, so I don't know.
And these may be even, I mean, these are different. This was pulled December 5th. So I know we've had a number of,
New
in fact, we just had a
registrants,
4th
yeah.
grader join us today, or a 5th grader join us today, so, these are constantly this is just a
Yeah.
snapshot in time, but the
Uh,
process begins.
But
Yeah,
Carol, oh, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
Carol, to your point too, I think a lot of people when they went to that work from home forever model, right? When you no longer ever have to go back to the office. I know a couple of Lily's friends who were like, well, we can go live where we've always wanted to live because we can move to Seattle because it doesn't matter where we live. We're working from home forever. And so I think that happened too, that COVID thing. Like we lost a lot of kids that way too. Like we can go live in the country and work.
Until companies get tired of that, or people get
Yeah,
tired
right,
of that,
yeah. Yeah.
and the
Come
pendulum
back.
swings back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know there's a couple kids in Lily's class that
Mm-hmm.
moved to Washington because they could. So. It's just interesting.
The next agenda item is an action item. We had presented the draft version of the 2023-24 school calendar, next year's calendar. That was adopted on March 9th of 22. It was initially presented as just in draft form in 21. We're always 2 years ahead. In 2022, we approved it. We had it up on the website for a while. Then we received District 214's updated calendar, and I pulled it back down because I recognized that we were not in alignment because of some of the movements they had made. So we went through our process with our calendar committee, meeting with our PHEA representatives. We modified the school calendar. Start and end dates didn't impact that. We're still really looking at a couple of days in October rather than in November. So we moved one of the institute days from November to October. Is probably the most significant change in this model. So presented tonight for a revised approval, and then after tonight I'll be able to communicate it out and put it back up on the website so families can arrange their calendars.
Got really early that year.
Mm-hmm. We've continued so the philosophical model has been align with 214 as much as possible for consistency among families and in the broader community. Of those, most important are holiday breaks, and then we try to look at start end dates. So part of that process is because we and all the other feeder districts independently create our calendars, and 214 creates its calendar, there's always this little kind of shuffle around of we do one first, 25 does one, 214 puts theirs, then we have to modify ours. So it's always I always caution people when they look at the calendar. I said, write those in pencil until we get to this springtime of the year before, where we know that it's more finalized.
If we were ever gonna like potentially just make a minor tweak to the philosophy, right, and say, hey, we still
Yeah.
we want to align with 214 as much as possible. We absolutely want to stay when we can, holiday wise, but potentially we'd like to have an extra week in the summer and less days off scattered throughout the school year.
Right.
Just, I guess we've always kind of done it the same way since I've been on here, but how would we even approach kind of potentially thinking
Yeah.
about changing that?
So there's a board representative on that calendar committee as well. The calendar committee is, again, comprised of a board member, which is Kevin Novak, or has been Kevin Novak. It was Gonja before him. Administration and representatives from our teachers union. They only make a recommendation for what that calendar should look like to the full board. So on the proactive side, if the board would like to have conversation about that, philosophy of calendar, et cetera, we certainly can. That would be similar to give direction to whoever the representative is on that committee to say, hey, we really think, we want to really maximize the summer of 2025, for example, when we think there may be a lot of construction. So we may need to give that direction to the board representatives so that they can articulate and administration can articulate that need. Regardless of what comes out of the committee, though, it's still the board's prerogative to say, we think we want X, Y, Z. So the formal calendar is always set by the board. The philosophy is set by the board, directed to me and your board representative.
With that being said, though, and correct me if I'm wrong, there are so many days the state of Illinois says
Yeah.
we have to take institute days that have to be right. There's a number of each of those things that we have to follow too.
Yeah, we don't really have as much wiggle room as we would like to have. Certainly not as much as we used to have. But there are a couple of additional days that are built in that
We could
are
get
within
rid
the
of.
middle of the year. I mean, the one that everybody hates is if we were to talk about changing the Thanksgiving week. We don't have to take those days in November if we wanted to tack them on, either starting later, going later, or starting earlier, ending earlier. That's really the bulk. We have 2 days there that are at play. So, and we're one of, we and a couple of other districts in this area have enjoyed that as a part of our culture for a long time, that whole Thanksgiving week is off for us, while other districts have different calendars. So, but outside of like 2, maybe 3 days that we have at play, we're pretty locked in.
I think the one I hear about a lot are the one like that Monday before the mandatory Tuesday of
Right.
the election day, where
Right.
it becomes like a 4-day. I
Right.
hear about that one where we're off like
Mm-hmm.
spring break and then Monday, Tuesday,
Right.
or even that institute day right after winter break.
Right. That was, and so that, the addition of the Monday day off right before a Tuesday Institute Day is really only 3 years old. The year before COVID.
Okay.
Is that 4 years ago now? So that was a new philosophy that was brought forth that said it feels like people are missing on Monday because they know they're going to be off Tuesday, so people are already taking that. So why don't we accommodate? So that was a purposeful choice based on feedback in that committee. But to your point, Brian, that discussion, that feedback is certainly within the board's purview to make those recommendations.
But then the Monday is an important one, like the one we just had. That's the township wide or
Yeah.
the feeder one.
Correct, right.
Where everybody
Everybody has
aligns
a-
for that.
Right.
And we're
So,
expanding it even next year, cause not all of the feeder schools have that January date off this year. And next year, the superintendents have all coordinated.
yeah, so that's an important, like,
Yeah.
even though it might be inconvenient as a parent, it's
Yeah.
an important one for the teachers to be able to coordinate.
Hey Don, that early childhood start date is incorrect, just so you know. It's the 17th, not the 21st.
It'll be Thursday the 17th.
Thursday, August 17th.
Yes.
Alright. So I can make that, if someone will make the motion with that modification.
So is it I move to approve the 23-24 school calendar with a modification of the first day of early childhood from the 21st to the 17th of August.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved by Becky, seconded by Brian. Roll call, please.
Oh
Mr.
gosh,
Bednar?
hold on. Sorry guys, this is new for me.
Slow
Okay,
down.
I'm good, sorry.
I forgot your
Mr.
name, I'm
Bednar?
sorry.
Yes.
Oh, it's okay.
Mr. Grodanis?
Yes.
Mrs. McClaney?
Yes.
Mrs. Boutwinski?
Yes. Motion passed 4-0.
Next is an information item. Dr. Zare presented our annual update regarding our assessment schedule.
Yeah, just a memo of the assessments that we take that are state mandated assessments and also the local assessments that we have. As you know, we pared it down. This is our first year not doing the FastBridge district-wide, just iReady. So that has kind of been the biggest change since the last time I presented this information, and we are right smack dab in the middle of iReady testing. So we straddled the break a little bit. Some people did it a little before they left, and some people are doing it after we have come back from the break. And this is also the assessment season that happens with access testing. All of our ELs are taking a test on their language acquisition, and before you know it, IAR is coming up and the Illinois Science Assessment. So all of this is coming soon to a computer screen near you. Any questions?
Oh, I like this chart.
I do too, it's really pretty.
Yeah, thank you.
When do we get the IA growth or
IAR
IAR growth results?
Usually, well, we have raw data that comes in that's not really shareable because they kind of start changing the cut scores and things like that. So we get raw data, I'd say late May, early June sometimes, but then over the summer, or maybe even like late summer, we start to get the parent reports, and then we send those out usually as soon as we can in the beginning of the school year next year.
I heard today on an enthralling webinar.
Ooh.
It was enthralling, let me tell you.
Oh yeah. IAR
Second
administration.
year,
Yeah.
2+ years
Very
experience.
exciting.
Were you on it?
I was not, but I was signed up for it.
Yes, it was enthralling. You missed a lot. Anyway, the IAR came out with some new practice thing. Do we do that with the kids? Like,
We do a limited form of like the practice form. We don't want to spend a whole lot of time on like just
right, because then we're like practicing
Practice
a test
and, like,
to do a test to take out all this instructional time.
Our philosophy has been like you're doing your everyday work, you're studying the standards, that should be preparation enough for the test. However, there are some times when you just need a little orientation to screens that are on the test, and there's
Okay.
certain scroll bars that they're not used to, and this is a pretty big important test, and we try not to make sure kids are calm and everything, but we do want to get a little bit of practice. We don't spend a ton of time on it, but a little orientation.
Kind of for logistics.
I was just gonna
and
say
stuff,
mostly
but
like
not,
our-
not
Right.
We don't take
you don't want to
weeks
practice.
People
Because then
back
test is
in
the
back in the
thing,
day,
not
people used to stop
learning.
everything and like
Yep.
let's take out the the ISAT test prep books. We don't do
Iowa
any of that.
test of basic
Yeah.
skills.
I'm dating myself here.
I was gonna say Iowa is what I'm thinking
Iowa
of here.
test, yeah, yeah.
Iowa test.
Yeah.
So Since we have the new ELA curriculum this year, like, would you expect, I guess at what point, like, would you almost consider this year like a transitional year?
Yeah,
You
sometimes
know, like, when
it's
do you
really
expect to
hard
really
tell.
see the full impact of having the new curriculum in our scores, right?
Sometimes they say up to 3 years, but like, you know, it kind of depends on what's happening. I'm not expecting miracles our first year. However, you know, our kids are being exposed to, you know, some more challenging texts. The hope is that because every time you're facing a test like IAR, it's a brand new passage, something pretty difficult that they probably don't have a lot of historical background knowledge on. And so that extra practice is embedded with the new ELA materials. So the hope is they're getting that, you know, consistent practice and building up their stamina for reading so that when they face something different and challenging, they're able to kind of navigate the text and answer the questions appropriately. But I don't know, you know, it's hard to tell of like implementation and how many years it takes, but I don't expect miracles the first year by any stretch of the imagination, because we're all just getting to know. And we just had our Institute Day and there was a lot of new aha moments from the presenters, like, oh, this explains like why it's taking so long to teach this unit. So I figure there's going to be a lot of adjustments even based on what we just learned in our Institute Day. So yeah, I'm expecting good things, but you know, just hoping for the best.
No, it's just, you know, when we were looking at the growth from last year, right, that like the math is so strong, right,
Yeah.
the math growth, right?
Yeah.
I mean, our math growth is the best out of any 214 feeder, right? And
Yeah.
but then, you know, but ELA is more middle of the pack, and so
Yeah.
just seeing, you know, you're just excited to see, right,
Yeah.
will this new curriculum really help the
Yeah.
ELA start to move to you know, to really get the excellent growth that we're seeing in math.
I know, and it will take. It's just it's not only the curriculum materials, but also the professional development around it. And
Right.
like you can't do everything before you get the materials. It kind of has to be ongoing, and that's how we got the math growth that we got. And so I'm hoping the same follows suit with ELA.
Cool, thank you.
I like your chart. It is very pretty though.
Thank you.
It's frameable.
Yeah.
Put it on your refrigerator.
You like the color coding?
I
You
do.
know, like
Oh,
here's the
thank
state,
It's
and
very
here's the
easy to the eyes.
soothes the eyes.
Well, it really does like throw. I don't know. Whatever. I like it.
Thank you.
It makes my heart happy.
The next agenda item is brief discussion around student fees and the recommendation therein.
So included in your packet is just like Don said, information item. At this point, administration is not recommending any increase in fees from the prior year. The one kind of holdout is the student lunch fees. We are in the process of an ISB audit. So once they release the paid lunch equity determination, we will be able to provide an update on lunch fees. But this is just an information item at this time for action next month. Any questions?
So next month we'll know the lunch fees.
We probably won't know the lunch fees till a little bit later this spring.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we'll finalize the student
Student
fees
fees
as
and then-
blocked
Yeah.
because we actually start the kindergarten registration
Registration.
process in February.
Yeah.
And then everyone else will start online registration for next school year in April.
Time flies.
As Brian mentioned, we have our annual insurance coverage renewal. This is an action item. Anne, you want to give any
Sure.
ground rules?
So in middle of December, I participated in the meeting with Skip to discuss the upcoming renewal for the district's property and liability insurance coverage, as well as the cyber liability. With regard to the property and casualty insurance, we're looking at roughly a 5% increase, 5.45%, which is kind of in alignment with where we've seen in prior years. We also there was also a pool contribution, which reduced the amount of the impact to the district in roughly about $8,000. Cyber, we're again, as Brian alluded to, we're seeing significant increases industry-wide. The impact to the district over the current year is approximately a 17% increase. So the total for those two areas is just over $96,000 for the upcoming year. Any questions on that?
When you do that stuff with Skip, just do you ever have the option to do multi-year policies, or is everything always just
Especially the cyber, Brian,
Yeah.
because it's so hard, and there
Yeah.
were so many things that were put into that renewal, right? We had to be up to speed on the MFA. There were a number of things that Chris worked with that we had to have up and running before we could even qualify for a renewal. Again, it's with Cowbell. But then they go in and price based on the amount of exposure, specific to each district. So they won't do a multi-year, especially on the cyber. I don't know that if they've looked at a multi-year on the property and casualty. They do put it out there every year for renewal, and for repricing in the market. But we haven't typically discussed a multi-year.
Is there anything that we could do that we don't do that could like help bring the cyber down more, or do they give you any other options?
Yeah, they talked about that toolkit, which is new this year, and so Chris has taken them up on that, which hopefully
Right.
will result in a little bit lower of a premium. They gave us a credit towards the purchase of that. It was included in that renewal, and there are a couple different items there that they've, they'll assist with some of our phishing. They want to get a little bit more detail on the network management that we have with Empist, and so Chris will work through some of those things. We'll just kind of have to wait and see exactly if there is going to be a correlating reduction in premium for next year. I would hope so. I hate to say that I'm pleased with the 17% increase, but I am compared to what they're seeing industry-wide there. Yeah.
And it sounds like this is kind of.
And we've been, as we did with our health insurance, by looking at our wellness activities, that was a shared union and administrative board goal. And we did that, and that helped to cap some of our medical insurance costs. Similarly, we're doing that now with cyber, and we've got a number of required training things, the multi-factor authentication, the updates to some of our policies and procedures around passwords. And so as we continue to implement those things that are part of that toolbox, it will hopefully continue to result in lower increases.
If anything, it
Lesser
reduces the
increases.
exposure for the district, which is
Well,
great to
that
see.
alone
Yeah.
is the main reason to do it. But
Any other questions? Can I get a motion?
You want to read it?
Yeah, motion to approve the district's renewal of property, casualty, and cyber liability insurance coverages through the Suburban School Insurance Cooperative Pool as presented in the total amount of $96,796. $96,796.
Yeah.
Wow. Sorry about that.
Putting some aside.
I'll second.
Moved by Brian, seconded by Becky. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bednar?
Yes.
Mr. Grodanis?
Yes.
Mrs. McClaney?
Yes.
Mrs. Botwinsky?
Yes. Motion passed 4-0.
the next item is also an action item. It is our annual resolution to appoint an individual to prepare our budget. Who could that be?
Love it. I love budget time.
And I'd like to make a motion to
Oh,
approve
gosh.
the Assistant Superintendent McPartland to the individual responsible for preparing the fiscal 2024 budgets.
Second.
Moved by Jim, seconded by Brian. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bednar?
Absolutely.
Mr. Grodanis?
Yes.
Mrs. McClaney?
Yes.
Mrs. Botwinsky?
Yes, indeed. Motion passed 4-0.
Our last superintendent's report item is a information item on a FOIA request and response.
we get these typically,
standard fees.
yeah, we get them quarterly, really from Smart Procure. They request different purchase order and vendor information, so we complied with that within the required time frame under the act.
Okay. So, now, is there any old business? Any new business?
So we, 2 times a year, we need to appoint someone to review our executive session minutes to determine whether information needs to maintain confidentiality, or if it can be opened and shared. So there's an action item again to nominate and appoint someone to review those minutes.
So we typically nominate the secretary who is not here, so can we do that?
Of course.
Absolutely. We
We
nominate.
All right.
We are a quorum. I nominate Mary Lynn Peters to do that task.
Okay.
She loves it.
She does.
Second.
All right. So, moved by Jim, seconded by Brian. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bednar?
Yes.
Mr. Grodanis?
Yes.
Mrs. McClaney?
Yes.
Mrs. Spotwinski?
Yes, motion passed 4-0.
I'll even call her and let her know.
Give her a heads up.
Okay. Okay. So, that is the end of the regular session, and now we need to move to executive session.
We didn't have a chance if you wanted to keep it. We don't have to keep it if it was something you wanted to do with everybody.
That, yes, that would
There'd be-
make more
Can we
sense.
do a quick negotiation update for the one board member that was?
Sure, if you'd like. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go to executive session and do that.
So motion for that
So-
purpose.
Motion, to go to executive session for the purpose of negotiations.
Second.
There will be no action.
No action after. So, moved by myself.
Okay.